Thomas, and with us, Fox 19 News anchor and Mr. Reality Check himself, Ben Swan, joining us. Good morning, Ben.
Gary, Jeff, I'd love to hear some more from Mark Levin. That was pretty good.
Obama must be stopped at any cost. All right. On the Fox 19 Evening News, on your Reality Check, you got videos of the GOP, the Republicans in certain states, stealing delegates. What's that all about? I hadn't heard about this.
You haven't heard about this, Gary, Jeff? You got to watch Reality Check, buddy. Come on, we got.
I understand, Ben. I've been more concerned with this insane Obamacare still being argued by the Supreme Court. They should have just adjourned, just saying, you know what, it's unconstitutional. Let's go home. But anyway, they didn't. So anyway,
they didn't. They didn't. Yeah. What's going on is you have all these different states right now. Of course, in the delegate process, just real quick to catch people up. The way it works is in many of these states, folks will go into the polls. They'll vote for their choice for the Republican side for presidential candidates.
Yeah.
And their vote really doesn't mean a whole lot because the process actually plays out in county conventions in which delegates are selected. Those delegates will move on to the state convention. At the state convention, they vote again, and many times they'll move on to the
national convention.
The national convention, right. And each state only gets a few delegates. So you might have thousands and thousands of names that you're kind of narrowing down, dropping them through a funnel almost until you get down to 25 or 40 or 50 that actually move on to the national convention in Tampa. So what's been happening, though, around the country is that in these delegate selection processes, now last week we covered what was going on in Missouri, and we've covered what went on in Georgia. And in both states, GOP leadership in both those states changed the rules, like in the middle of these meetings, decided instead of allowing people to vote for the delegates they wanted, they started appointing delegates, refusing to allow people to vote on the delegate slates, all kinds of stuff. And I've been getting a lot of video. A lot of folks have been just taking cameras in and videotaping. The latest one we're going to show this week is in the state of Washington, where there was actually the head of the GOP there is standing in a room explaining to people how they're going to ask for delegates from the Santorum campaign, the Romney campaign, and the Gingrich campaign to, instead of allowing the at-large caucus goers to vote on the delegate slate, they've already have a pre-approved delegate slate that they're going to push through because the guy in charge there says, yes, even though you all won't get all the people you want, this is a great way to block Ron Paul's people from being able to get on the delegate slate. And he's it's not like he's kind of inferring things. I mean, they spell it out pretty clearly. So a lot of these videos are going viral, and this latest one that was sent to me out of Washington, we're going to show it this week. And the main thing about it is it's just disappointing to see that the process that's supposed to be, a delegate process is supposed to be especially inclusive because it allows people on a very personal level to get involved, but not if you're changing the rules or changing the game.
All right. Well, but what about in the states, in almost every primary and caucus across the country, with the exception of one or two, Ron Paul has gotten the least amount of votes of the people who went to the polls.
Right.
So
right.
why would he get delegates anyway?
Because that's how the process works.
Yeah.
The way the process works is that going to the polls is just a straw poll. I mean, that's no different than Rasmussen going around and polling people and saying, who do you like better? The way the caucus process works is it's not supposed to be people just go in and drop a name. You're supposed to go at a designated time. You're supposed to make it a plea for your candidate. You're supposed to speak on their behalf as to why you think that they are a good candidate.
Right.
And the process is supposed to be open because any registered voter in the party can show up and take part in it. But what's happening, though, is exactly what you said. What you just said was in a lot of these states, they're saying, well, he didn't win the straw poll. Or in Missouri, they were saying, well, Romney didn't win the straw poll. Mm-hmm. And Paul didn't win the straw poll. Santorum did. So it's only fair that we make sure he gets the most delegates. Well, that's not how the system works. The system is not designed for party leaders to make those decisions. It's for the people who are registered in those counties and in those districts.
Well, what about states where there are winner-take-all rules?
Yeah, in the states of the winner-take-all rules, it's a totally different setup. Mm-hmm. It's a totally different setup because in those states, the delegates are automatically assigned. And in the first round of voting, they have to vote for their candidate. They're bound to vote for the candidate. But that's not the case in a lot of these early states. In a lot of these early states, Washington, Iowa, Missouri, Colorado, Maine, Alaska. I mean, a lot of these states, they're not designed that way because they're allowed to have the freedom to switch to support the candidate they want to support, depending on how the process plays out over the next few months.
Also, Governor Kasich has a plan to give Ohioans, income taxpayers, a break by increasing taxes on oil and natural gas production in Ohio. Real quick talk about that, Ben.
Yeah, we're going to actually talk about that one tonight. I actually interviewed the governor one-on-one. It was an exclusive interview that we did with him about this plan. It looks like, we're going to explain how it works, but it's a pretty good plan in terms of, there's so much talk about oil and natural gas exploration in Ohio, and the work is going to be done. There's all these oil companies that are coming in and saying we want to, extract that natural gas from the ground. But what the governor's doing is he's laying out a plan in advance. I mean, how much is there actually in Ohio? No one really knows. But before they find out, the governor is resetting the clock here because Ohioans have one of the lowest tax rates on oil and natural gas production of any state in the country. Something like 20 cents out of every $107 a barrel of oil goes back to the state. So he wants to raise it. It would still be lower than states like Texas and Alaska and even Pennsylvania. It would be lower, but he wants to raise it. And instead of, and this is the part that I think most people should be able to get behind, instead of saying, well, we're going to take that tax money, bring it back into the state, put it into the coffers, decide how we're going to distribute it later, he's just saying, look, we're going to offset it. Every dollar that comes in from that is going to go back to taxpayers in the form of an income tax reduction,
right? Because
it's these are natural resources from the state, and people from the state should be paying less in taxes.
Well, when we have such a low tax on oil and gas production, according to Tax Foundation, Ohio's combined state and local income tax is among the highest in the country.
That's right.
Right now,
that's right. It's extremely high, and the taxation on those oil companies is extremely low. The problem is, it seems like he's trying to get out in front of it because in Pennsylvania, there's been a lot of fighting because now that there's been so much production, the state wants to come back and say, well, you know what, let's raise some taxes. And when you do that, now you've got a big fight on your hands. So I think there's a proactive approach here in terms of saying, let's just handle this now. If it turns out there isn't that much under the ground, then who cares? No one. You can't raise taxes on something that's not really being taken out, so it doesn't matter. But if there is a lot, then we've already handled this argument from the beginning.
Great stuff. Ben Swann, Fox 19 Reality Check. Check fox19.com and check the Fox 19 Evening News. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.